All right, this is our second week of commas. This week we'll be going over comma rules numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8. Comma rule number 5. We're going to use a comma to set apart a sentence from whoever is being addressed. So if I say, John, there are tacos in the kitchen, because I'm talking to John, I'm going to put a comma after John so that I distinguish John from the rest of the sentence. He's not the subject, he's not doing the action. It just lets you know who the person is talking to. You're going to put commas between John and the rest of the sentence, regardless of where John lies in the sentence. So, there are tacos, John, in the kitchen. You would use a comma both before and after John. And lastly, there are tacos in the kitchen, John. We're going to put a comma before John to separate it from the rest of the sentence. This goes for anybody's name, too. It's not just John. Anytime you could put me in there and say, Miss Tice, I did my homework last night, you would still put a comma after Miss Tice. Okay, rule number 6. After an introductory word or phrase. So, yes, you may go to the dance after school. Yes is an introductory word, and it's kind of like John. It has to be separate from the rest of the sentence, but it's not a sentence on its own. So we're going to put a comma after yes. The same thing would happen if we put it, well, it wouldn't make sense to put it at the end of the sentence. You could also use no, of course. Go directly home when it's over. Of course is an introductory phrase, so we're going to put a comma after it. This also goes for a lot of our transition words and phrases. Comma rule number 7. We're going to use commas to separate words or phrases in a list of 3 or more items. Now, if you just have a list of 2 things, we're not going to use commas to separate them. But if you have 3 or more, we're going to put a comma between each of our items. So, I want pizza, ice cream, cake, and soda. There we have 4 things, so we have to use commas between them. We put one after pizza, one after ice cream, and one before the and. Now, the one before the and, some teachers have probably told you that it's optional. I don't believe it's optional. It's called the Oxford comma, but I think it's pretty important in making our sentences make better sense. And we'll look at a couple examples in class where if you don't use that one, it gets really confusing. So, we're going to put commas between all 4 of our items. You're going to have one less comma than you have items. The cat went up the tree, across the branch, and onto the roof. We're going to put a comma after tree and after branch. So because we're separating 3 things, we use 2 commas. When we had 4 things, we had 3 commas. So you have one less comma than you have items. Comma rule number 8 is after an introductory clause at the beginning of a complex sentence. We've already talked about this one. When we write a complex sentence, it has a dependent and an independent clause. If the dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have to put a comma after it. So, while sewing is going to be not a clause, an introductory phrase again. The coat was ripped. If you see Jenny, you see Jenny. If you see Jenny is a dependent clause, we put a comma after it. Because of my mom, comma, I can't go to the party. Vocab this week. We have analyze, to break into parts and study the parts. It's a verb. The doctor analyzed the test results. Industrious means hardworking. The industrious man always got more done than his colleagues. Conscientious. Make sure you pay attention to the spelling on this one. Showing great care and attention to a given task. The conscientious girl worked diligently to finish the project. If you don't know what diligently means, it means she worked really hard. Compassionate means showing sympathy. The compassionate woman always felt for those who had lost loved ones. This goes along with empathy as well. Discerning means showing good judgment of value. The discerning woman did not fall for the man's trick. All right, practice for this week. Go ahead and copy the following sentences into your notes and place commas where they belong. As always, you can use your notes to help you. And then this is the end of today's notes. Make sure you write your 20-word summary. Place your notes in the back of your grammar folder.